I'm getting better. I'm not as sick as I was. So hopefully this stream will be a bit better. Let me bump up my, there we go. Got to bump up the volume a little more. Get the party going on the dance floor. I need a place to stay. I need to get my booty on the floor tonight. Get your booty on the floor tonight. Boop, 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 boop. Bump, 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 bump. Doop, doop, doop. Doop, doop, boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. All right. Let's go back. We're gonna do some cleanup here. I need to get another. We gotta get another Trello board going. Now again, I have not forgotten about. Here's the deal. I have not forgotten about the Hexagon game. It still exists, and I'm still going to be working on it. I am just taking a bit of a break so that I continue to keep the flame alive. You understand? The flame. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm transcribing some notes that I made a long time ago. And yeah, so I'm just trying to keep the flame alive. So I don't want to work on that right now. And I'm at a point where I need my wife to do some things in it. So I don't know when that's going to happen. But at some point it will. I don't know what this means, grid traveled. What was I thinking past me? All right, so tutorial should be 3. Okay. Yeah, so again, I'm transcribing. I made all these notes a long time ago. I can still remember. Long, long time ago. I can still remember. Every paper I delivered. More bad news on the doorstep. I couldn't eat tacos. Can't remember if I cried when I... Something struck me deep inside. Today. Combat mechanics died. They were singing. Alright, almost done transcribing. I take me on. Take on me. I'll be there. Take on me in a day or two. Sorry. Yeah, so transcribing. That's what I'm doing right here. Trying to keep the flame alive, guys. Trying to keep the flame alive. What are you guys working on? Anybody out there talking to me? Talk to me. Talk to me. Tell me. Tell me what you're thinking. Do ba ba do. Ba ba do ba 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 da ba 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 ba. Ba da ba da ba da ba ba ba. Take on me. Take on me. I'll be there. So I need to see. See, this is my original plan, was to build the 2D version first. So I'm already feeling good because we're going straight to 3D. Screw waiting around. Tick on me. So almost done here. I just want to chip away, get these notes in first. Because echo reverb, no problem. We can do that. Built in, boys. Built in. Don't know why I'm saying I needed to be able to do that. I don't remember that happening in the game. But maybe... I mean, reverb for the sound effects for sure, but I don't remember that for the music in the game. But who knows? Mayhaps. And I am going to start streaming playing this game. I keep running into this little stopping blocks to that. So we're going to get there. Okay. Only while one track at a given moment. This is inherent to the way I'm doing it. I don't know why I specified that. But okay, so let's make a deal. Can we? So this is the this is my Trello for the Hexagon game. We're gonna make another one for this one, and I might actually already have a board for this tactics game. I started something. Got to be started something. Boom, 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 boom. So we were working on the character movement yesterday, and we had a system in place for picking a random spot for the character to move in, and then they have the character move towards that. And hopefully we would translate the heights and everything as needed. And it seemed to be working. There was like 1 or 2 scenarios that had some weirdness. So we want to look into that. But this seems to be what we'd want to see. Here's an example. So we got the wrong heights here, for sure. So on these edges here, what would those be in our space? Let's go on the grid map and look. How do I check? Do I need to block out? Got to rock out with my block out. Does it say where I put the grid point? Nope. So we know that it's the floor is 0, so this would be 2. So we should be 2s over here. And we know that, can we tell what our deal is, where we are, X and Y? And all that stuff. Come on, there's got to be a way to read. They have it for the tile map. Is there something I'm missing? Like, while I'm hovering over here, it should tell me where I'm at, you know? Alas, it does not. But it could do this. So we're what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out. Okay, so 5 on the Z. And then whatever on our X. 5 on the Z should be getting us a value of 1. No, 2 for our height. So let's spit out our numbers and see what we have when we build this out. Now we're debugging. So randomly, I'm in a debug, but that's fine. Got to be starting something. Oh, you know what? We forgot to do some cleanup here. Okay, get heights in random position. Camera gimbal, we added a clamp to. And then for the Sprite 3D, we made it set. We set it up so that it picks a random point to move to. Okay, so initial testing for character movement, and I suppose we could actually make that a bit quicker. Control Shift G. That's so easy to remember. Control Shift G. Said, and it didn't even do what it said it would do. No, that's not what we want. How do we hide? Primary sidebar, Control B. There we go. All right, so we could speed this up a bit. On our Sprite 3D here, we're going a bit slow. So our pause could be 0.5. Then we could tween at pretty fast speeds. That's dang fast. Let's make it so it does seem to be traversing pretty well. But something about our stage being built out and our height's not being right. And I'm also thinking that here we're doing the vector 2. I think we should just make this a straight up vector 3. And then just put 0 for the y height. And then when we call to get the has statement, we're getting it from a vec3. Thought about that last night after I kind of hemmed and hawed over what I was going to do there. So let's see that the numbers are that we're getting. And so we're looking for, let's revisit what I was looking at here. So we're looking at our z, x, y, z. We're looking for 5s, negative 5s. And we're concerned about those heights for those. Holy shit, I'm so stupid. Wait a minute. Just had a thought. Well, okay. Sorry. I had a thought. I'm going to leave it. But I did have a thought. I had a thought. He had a thought. So yeah, we're showing 0. That ain't correct whatsoever. As a matter of fact, we should not have any zeros, period. So those are suspect numbers. Did the thought hurt? It hurt so bad. It hurt so bad. Let me show you what we did yesterday. We picked 2 random points to spawn, one to spawn the character at, and one for the character to move towards. And I'll show you what that's looking like. We got a little bit of a bug for it. So we go on one axis first until we reach 0 from where we're trying to head. See, something about our heights ain't quite right on the edges. So I'm trying to figure that out. So if we pick a location that's right on the edge, we dip down to 0 for some reason for our heights. So I got to figure that out. But it is working properly until you get to the edges, and then things get wishy-washy. So yeah, so we're gonna work that out. I was watching the game in I was watching the regular play of the tactics game, and I mean, it looks like they're basically doing this exact same approach of tweening between points. What's happening at the edges is, for some reason, when I'm building out what I'm calling the height map of like how tall is something, for some reason we're getting back 0. So I don't know. I gotta figure that out. 0 for the tallest, the height. Yeah, location, which ain't in the grid map, which is not right. So it might be that we're picking an area out of bounds, but then when the character is actually moving, it is in a place where the grid map is. But it seems like on the edges, and only some of the edges, we're getting 0 as a result. So I'm going to be looking into that here. And I thought it was just on Z, on the edges of Z, but I'm seeing it on the edges of X here as well. So we'll look into that. But yeah, I mean, the basic concept is there. The basic thinking is there in the code. Now, obviously, I won't have the characters traverse in this manner. There'll be more of a, like, kind of a pathfinding thing going on. But this was more to test the heights. And sure enough, we run into some issues. So, I mean, it's a good thing because we're going to be able to figure that stuff out. But my Steam is a bit low because I've been sick for so long. But way too many zeros. None of these should be 0. Frankly. Not frankly, 100%. None of these should be 0. Because none of the grid map stuff is on floor level. So although I guess technically these ones are, right? That's what 0 represents is, I don't know, we'll figure it out. Yeah. Also, I've suddenly discovered this thing called pixel size, which I have a feeling is going to be a little hard to figure out some stuff with. So we're going to go ahead and read about that right now on Sprite-based 3D. So let's look up Sprite 3D. But we need to understand that pretty darn well. I suspect. Why am I going all the way here when I have local docs? Sprite 3D. But yeah, on that -5 on the Z, we should definitely not have 0. So we'll figure it out. So it's not sprite 3D, it's sprite based 3D, and it's a thing called pixel size. The size of one pixel's width on the sprite to scale it in 3D. Okay. I don't know why that reads as a really awkward sentence. How many units a pixel occupies? Yeah. So how do I know how many units, whatever that is? Let's see. Cell size is 111. So if I make, what happens if I turn this number? I mean, that's a very low number. So if I make this 1, does that mean that 1 pixel is the size of 1 block? It appears to be the case. Yes. Okay. All right, I understand. So, let's bring it back. So if we consider, like, let's pretend like we want the maximum width of the character to be a block, and we know that the number of pixels on a character on its width is 16, then we would bring that down by that much. So we would say divisible, so like 1/16, right? So I don't know how many pixels wide we are. Well, if your sprite 16 pixels, you want it to occupy 16, and the scale is 1. But when I choose 1 for pixel size, I become enormous. Enormous. So how big is my sprite then? Let's check that out. Make sure we're all apples to apples here. Let's go show this in File Manager. We'll open this up in ASprite. Right. That's what I'm saying. So what I want to do is just go, if it's 16 wide, we want 16 wide to be 1 block, we go 1 divided by 16, right? Which gets us this number, which I guess is what it was. Not quite, but almost. There we go. It seems about right, actually. Okay. So, now we have a better understanding of that. Thank you for the data, Captain. Sprite. Hey, Sprite. How you doing? All right, so some other updates here. Should also be able to enter the math right in the editor. Oh, that's right. You can do that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. All right, so here's what I've made some realizations here. My initial thoughts on how to make this easier for myself was actually how they're doing it in the game. Typically, the sprites only have, they've only worked out the rear. Okay. So in this game, when you're in battle, the characters are like marching in place, right? That's 5 frames of animation, and all they do is they do 5 frames for 3/4 facing away and 5 frames for 3/4 facing towards you, and then they mirror it based on, you know, what way they're facing and whether or not you're seeing the front or the back of the character. Only for like cutscenes do they have a very particular thing. They don't have any marching. When you rotate the camera around, you're only seeing 4 sides of the character. There is, however, for our special characters, the ones that we have in cutscenes that are going to be doing certain things, like emoting and stuff, they have a facing direction that is purely portrait and rear and front facing. Right here. But for everyone else, when we're dealing with Battlefield and animations and all that stuff, it's strictly a 3/4, and then they just mirror it. So you're able to get, with 10 frames of animation, you get marching for 3/4 left and right, and front and back. So that's how they're doing it. Yeah. So that's good news, I suppose. I think maybe what we'll probably end up doing is modeling characters in Blender, fixing the camera in orthogonal view, rendering out those frame steps as pixels for sprites, and bringing them out that way. And we're not going to be using 3D models for it. But we're also probably... I don't know, though. I don't know. That's way, way, way far away. So, let's go... Oh, but we did want to see what was our width here. And this is kind of a weird situation, because I think what we're going to want to do is... This is probably... Actually, what we care about is this character size here. So let's find out how tall we are and how wide we are. So that shows 19 wide and 35 tall. So let's do this. That one shows, or sorry, 18 wide, 36 tall. No, for sure not. We got to figure out how it's broken up. Get an idea at least. Because they do have some really big, so this one is 17 wide, 37 tall. So... You should measure 2 gray blocks wide and 3 tall. Why would I trust these grays, though? Are they perfectly lined up? They are. And there's a little bleed over. Okay. So I think at least, yeah, at least on the width. Okay, let's see. So if we're 32 by 48. Okay. I really need to be able to just pop over to the game and look at some things. They're almost, but you need it. Yeah, I for sure agree with that, especially with how we're going to be doing the animation. Because essentially what we're going to have is we're just going to shift. We're gonna tile these out. So the animation, the way I'm imagining doing it is we animate on an axis, and then all we're gonna do based on the direction we're facing is shift to return the correct sprites for that animation loop based off of where the camera is and where the player is facing, right? Or where that character is facing relative to where the camera is facing, right? and then we just shift around that array of animations and directions so that we're on the right. Because the other thing is the animations continue as the camera rotates. So as the frame step happens and we happen to be shifting, we'll still be on the right frame of animation when the direction changes as well. So that's how I'm imagining that'll work. Okay. Yeah, so I'm just trying to, like, you know, we're kind of... Let us display your sprite is 24 by 32. You should have in mind that the character's floor is 28 pixels down. Right, right. Well, yeah, and the reason why I think that why we would want to give that generous space is because we're dealing with an orthogonal view, right? And so we need to have them to appear to be floating on top of... not floating. That's the problem, right? We want to make sure they don't appear to be floating. So those are the numbers that we really need to lock in for sure. The heights of the camera angles and all that stuff. I do believe that they're using half of 45 degrees, so 22.5. You can rotate up to 45. It just doesn't look as good, and the game by default doesn't keep that angle. Because you get a more sense of like the scale of the battle by having this slightly lower than 45 degrees. Okay, so talking through this, getting some ideas of how things are going to be looking. We've got this bug we want to figure out right now. We could translate what we have here now. We could easily translate into the scripting stuff so that we can practice moving the character with the scripting stuff that we have. See if that's working. We could throw two characters on here and try to script them to move at the same time using the parallel task that I made. The parallel steps that I made for the scripting stuff. So it's another thing we could do. Now I don't think we get label 3D in because we do need we do have label 3D. Is this new for 3.5? We can billboard it. Okay. So this will be important for handling states and bringing those up. Okay. Oh, nice. Lovely. Lovely day. Lovely day. I was listening to Bill Withers. That's who sings that, right? Bill Withers? Is it Withers? Yeah. I was listening to... I had all of his like his records on random on Spotify, and gosh, I forget the name of the song, but the song was basically about how his life was over. He'd lost his woman. He might as well, or he has like got no money, you know, all this stuff. He might as well die. And the end of the song, might as well kill himself. And at the end of the song, it ends with a snare that like kind of represents like a gunshot. And so that was the song that played, and then instantly right after that, it goes boom, 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 and it's got Lovely Day next. And I just thought it was so funny, the juxtaposition of these two songs that the same guy wrote. One's like, I might as well kill myself, and the song ends with him like a representation of that. And then it goes to Lovely Day. I don't know, it just cracked me up. Yeah. I like Bill Withers though. His music's so good. It's timeless. All right. Okay, so we did a lot of refactoring of our project yesterday in order to get us to a point. It was funny how much time I spent unraveling the spaghetti of Can I from the other streams. So there's so much for me to chew off here. I almost want to just start learning Blender though, but I don't know if I want to put that through people through that on the stream. I don't need to know a lot of Blender because really I'm just going to be building some really particular shapes. But I do need to know how to texture stuff and start getting something in. I was thinking about I guess we could get a screenshot of tactics really quick just to see. I know. I'm telling you, that's why I'm going to be at some point. I'm going to be. Oh, this is a great moment. Look at this storytelling just in the screenshot. Look at that. We need a better. So there's the opening battle. Just trying to get an idea of our block size and our character size to that. It does look like we have a lot of space between the two. So the staggering of these pixels here is actually a hint about the character's the camera's position. We should be able to measure these lines here, knowing that this is a square, to figure out the angle of the camera. But yeah, it does look like we're almost not quite. I'd say we're three quarters of the size of a block. Just about. So if we and that's to say we don't know the size of the, like this, you know, the fictional spacing of the sprite. Tool to generate. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'm probably not going to be doing anything like this. Although I may. Actually, I may. I definitely am going to probably dip into shaders a bit. Because I do feel like you can, like, if you look at this is an old PS1 game. They couldn't do anything. They couldn't do, like, foliage. I don't know. Always have a hard time with that word. So they couldn't do any, like, plant life or anything. You know, they did have the rain effect, which is a really cheap effect to fire off. I think this game just took advantage of the PlayStation hardware in its like peak of what it was good at. And by doing orthogonal, it actually solved some of the weird rendering issues that you would see on the PlayStation because of the way it did floats. If I remember, I don't really know the reason why the polygons would warp so much. Tactics, yeah. I mean, technically, if you're talking about Ogre Tactics, but FF Tactics was on the PS1. Okay. So we're studying right now. We're doing a little bit of homework, I guess. I really need to be able to show the game on the stream, though. I have 2 devices that I thought would work. I have a PS TV. Nope. HDCP is blocking my Elgato from showing us the game. I have a PS3, same thing. HDCP is blocking it. Now, I have an HDMI splitter that bypasses HDCP. I have no idea where it is. I'll take that back. I know exactly where it is. It is behind layers of boxes that I cannot reach. And then it's a matter of finding out which box it's in. So we can't do that right now. All right, well, but yeah, Tactics Ogre was the inspiration. Or I should say the same guy who made Tactics Ogre then went on to make Final Fantasy Tactics. And Front Mission, I believe. Which is also a tactics-style mech game. As well as Valiant Hearts. Vagrant Hearts? One of the hearts. Look at this, like... I mean, that's the other thing. They had all this, like, gender like... It wasn't... Like, I mean, even this game back in it was like, screw gender roles. Like, we have got this dude in a halter top. You know? Like, and he's wearing a kilt. It was great. It was great stuff. Then you had this is all your classes. This isn't all of them. But you had a job system. So you had a class, but then you had jobs that they could bleed over into different classes. Which is really cool. And you'd earn job points just like XP. So you'd have a base level, but then you'd also be earning job points that you would then selectively spend on things that you want for your abilities for your character to have. And then you've got gear and things like that as well. Okay. So. Oh, okay. There is something I was concerned about with the grid map that I wanted to look into. I'm just getting my ducks in a row. I'm putting the ingredients in the stew, and I'm gonna let it simmer. That's what's happening right now for me. Japan is confusing. Their media suggests they're very progressive from a gender standpoint, but they're in IRL, as I understand it, they're actually far from. Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, it's interesting. I think it's just like here or anywhere else where there is what we would deem liberal or progressive or whatever, and it tends to come from the arts that tries to push the line on certain things or test boundaries. And even in Japan, they have that. But then there's also the tradition of the country, and then there's always a conservative element where it pushes back on the change of culture, and it says we need to keep the old ways. Interestingly, the game itself is a lot about that kind of thing. Yeah, no, but every culture is full of what they say and what they do being two different things. You know, there's hypocrisy in it, and all that stuff for sure. I always seem to, yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so here's my concern about the grid map. We're going to be dealing with thirds and even quarters of size. So we can't have, although we're going to be building on this grid, we're going to be having blocks that are not necessarily going to be 1-to-1, right? They'll so they'll let's change the floor here. There'll be some that are half heights. There'll be some that are quarter, and and so on. So I guess what I'm trying to express is a concern that I may have to build almost like, maybe not. Because if let's say I have like something where I want a block that's a quarter tall, and then I want another block that would fit perfectly on a floor going at a specific angle, but then it would be floating over that quarter block. So am I going to have to create 2 more blocks, one with 1/2 of the peak of this thing on one level, and then on one floor, and then the other half on the other floor? Or do I say, from a design perspective, I'm not even going to bother with that, and if you do put like quarters and halves, then you need to put an appropriate I guess we'll just have to run into that when we start designing stages and figure it out. Can we do something about floor? No. So we have a set cell item, set clip. What is this? Here we go. StarNix45 says, I was at the same point deciding if grid maps or not. The reason for me was to not go with a grid map. I wasn't able to store directly information on a grid element. So you had to have, that's something I'm also slightly concerned about, because we're dealing with that you'll have area of effects that take into account the type of surface it's on. And when I say surface, I mean whether it's like swampland or dry or like arid desert, or is it on Earth or not? So those things need to know what is that block, represent. Okay, so this is a good tutorial on making isometric game tiles. Now, guys, I have to apologize. I know this stream's very particular, and I know it doesn't seem like I'm doing anything, but I am trying to think about your future. Trying to think about the future here. Should be able to identify the tile in a grid map just like you can in a tile map. Yeah. So then the key to that becomes, whatever you. Right, probably an ID. So you have to be very methodic about building it out so that you can create your own lookup table, basically, to map those elements to that block type. Key to is actually have to know your tile map. Exactly. So yeah, if you did a dictionary with the coordinates of a tile map as the key, then you could have another sub. Well, I guess you wouldn't even need. I don't know how the grid maps, because it uses the mesh library, right? So would it be considered a cell item? So if it's just a number that increments up, you could just use an array as a lookup, and then a dictionary inside of that to be like the different sort of attributes that you need to look up, the metadata. So then it could be like, the item 2 has these attributes. And so that's how we could do that. But yeah, how do you, I mean, it becomes a thing of, okay, you know, you got to have that list somewhere and be able to reference it and know that you cannot, if you decide you're not going to use a block, you need to have a filler there. I mean, you could clean it up, but like if you're going to build this out into a big data structure somewhere that you're going to have to hand tinker with, you know, I mean, probably the way that I would end up doing it would be to have, probably just use a reference. I mean, you could, the other thing you could do is build a custom scene that has a resource that's just built out, that just builds itself out and says, okay, I know that because there's these these cells in this grid map, I'm going to build a resource list here for you, and then you can just set the values you want inside that. I felt more comfortable having each grid element as its own object, so I could add different stuff to the grid as the object as well. Yeah. You know, it's funny, when I was doing a tile map game, I kind of ran into the same problem, and I wrote a script so that when in editor, it was an editor script, so that when I would set a cell in a tile map, it would actually clear the cell and then spawn a object representation in the scene in Godot of that same cell that I was putting in, so that I would do it kind of like what you were talking about, Starnix. Their editor engine add-ons that let you edit CSVs in the editor. Yeah. Okay, so we've got some options. But I do think I'll be able to get by just using the spawning individual nodes by hand. I had a concern about nodes and having a lot of them. But in the other game that I'm doing, one of my solutions was to put a node within a node, and then all of a sudden my node count just exploded in the runtime. It's in a prepackaged scene, so I don't know if it's that big a deal or not. But, you know, when you think about, or it was a node 2D, and you think about, what concerns me about stuff like that is, like, you think about a node 2D and everything that it inherits, and it's like, is this all memory space that's taken up just to have this thing exist? And if I'm doubling the amount of node 2Ds, like with all these properties that it has, that's a lot of stuff to hold in memory. Does my memory count grow, you know, by that much? So isometric game tiles in Blender. So yeah, I'm just kind of floating around in my head going, okay, of course it grows by that much. Yeah, I don't feel like it, like this, that this small amount of object has any impact on. Right. Yeah, it just depends on the game you're making. It's your call. It's something to think about, though, for sure. Okay. Let's close that out. So, what I could do is spawn a bunch of label 3Ds here, because what I need to check is my data right. So what I've got is I've built out something that goes and it just maps the heights of all these points on the grid map. So since I supposedly know those, I could spawn a label 3D for each of the points and say, here I am. But even a relatively small 3D tile map can be hundreds of nodes. It's insane. Sorry for the bodily noises. All right, so let's do that. Because I want to see if my data, what I'm building out is right, and if it's not, then I need a way to know that, and I need a way to fix it. And to be able to see it is for me, the way my brain works, I think the quickest way we're going to be able to manipulate our results and get this working right. So let's just build we're just going to build a doodaddy humdinger of a label 3D in a new scene. We'll just call it La Bleu. And we'll go with other node, and we'll go with a label 3D. La Bleu 3D. Okay, there's our La Bleu 3D floating in space. Text. Let's see what it looks like when we add some text. There we are. Now we need to set it to be billboard. Can we do that? Flags. Billboard enabled. There it is. So now we're always facing us. Very good. Okay, let's give ourselves an outline. So we have an outline mod here. How do we turn it on? How do we turn on outline? Here we go. Is that? No. Outline render. Sets the render priority for the text outline. Okay. Let's bring that back down. Shaded on or off? No. How do we do outline? Font? Is it because we need to pick a font so we can do an outline? Is that the problem? Okay. La Bleu. Let's go to Google's fonts. We'll just pick something real quick. Or thousands if one isn't careful about which nodes get spawned. Roboto. Domo Domo. We'll use Roboto. Domo arigato. Mr. Roboto. Domo Domo. We don't want to download the font family. Ah, fine. Meh. It's fine. Domo Domo. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've got it over here. Let's get up our stuff. Because I'd like to have that outline. See, now I'm getting sidetracked. Do I really need to do all this to get the outline? Maybe not. But I want the outline. Now that I know it's there. Alright, we're going to go Roboto regular. Domo Domo. This is true. Domo arigato. Thank you very much for making... Okay, so we need to make a dynamic font for this. New resource. Dynamic. Test. I don't know. Debug. We'll call it debug. We're going to move all this stuff. Obviously, we're just getting our project into a mess right now. Domo Domo. Domo arigato. Mr. Roboto. Domo Domo. Is this... Yeah, okay. So now, can we do an outline? Horizontal, uppercase, auto wrap. Extra, spacing, settings. Outline, here we go. Ha! Domo Domo. Domo arigato. Cool, so, yeah, a little bit of an outline is probably a good idea. Now, let's spawn this bad boy. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, I'd like to bold this. I'll just check the... Wait a minute. That's not how this is going to work. One of my pet peeves, I got to say, I play a lot of indie games, right? One of my pet peeves is fake pixel... how do I call it? I don't know how to call it. But where they'll use pixel art, but nothing's on. There's no. It's not true pixel accuracy, right? So some will be like a little bit whiter or whatnot, and then on top of that, the other thing is, okay, it's got, this happens if it does have good pixel art, if it doesn't. But then the fonts are all this like perfectly smooth, like completely like anti-aliased, like you can't see any chunkiness to it at all. There's nothing there. And it just is like, what? Like, what's with the aesthetic here? Like, what am I supposed to like? But the menu, the borders around the menu are all pixel art and everything, but the font is like this perfectly to the scale of the like whatever the resolution of the monitor is. It looks exactly like if it was just a font on a computer screen. Drives me crazy. It's like, what's the point? Like, you did all this other work. Why are you like ruining the veneer of the, I don't know what to call it, but just like takes me out of it. Anyways, take me down to the very last city. So, I guess what we'll do is on here, to be fair, out modern graphics card and use the DirectX OpenGL Vulkan makes pixel accuracy very hard. Yes, we have figured that out. We have discovered that already, huh, Obsidian? Like, even in Godot, it's like, wait a minute, why are we getting this shimmer? Like, we got all these checkboxes here. Why is there a shimmer when we're scrolling here? Depending on screen types, can warp pixels as well, depending on the graphics card. This is true. That's why when I see it actually right, I gotta hand it to the people that do that. All right, so these are. I was gonna look up really quick in. I'm actually gonna do some dev here, I promise. But I did want to look up snippets really quick. And is there something about snippets in here? Snippets. Configure user snippets. New global snippets file. Snippets file name. Snippets. So how do we make a snippet? Example. Oh my god, never mind. I can't do this right now. I wanted to make a comment snippet so I could easily inject approved Obsidian BLK comments using VS Code snippets, but we're not going to do that right now. HDMI for instance, is completely different video standard than it was for CRTs. Right. Yep. Right. Well, and they were all designed around the existence of scan lines. That's one thing that that does frustrate me, and it's difficult. It's difficult to emulate scan lines if you don't have enough. I mean, with 4K, it's getting better, but to get that like that phosphorescent, like the way that scan lines work and the way that they have almost this doubling effect on pixels and the way that pixel art looks on a CRT versus this clean like. Even when they were making the game, they didn't see the game that way. And it makes the game look worse by not having scan lines. Those old ones. Private. Oh no, these are override. Okay, so we're gonna get the stages. What is it called? Heights. Okay, so for and I guess it's now we shouldn't have it be a private variable. But we're not going to be, you know what? We're not going to be accessing it like this probably again. So for now, we'll just ignore that. And just to make sure that this is even possible to grab it like this. Do that. Hey, you scared the crud out of me. Whew! Almost gave Papa a heart attack. How you doing? You doing good? Okay. Well, that's good. Yes, love. Yes, I do. Oh, I gotta take a quick bread break. I'll be right back. My daughter made some bread, and we're very excited about it. So I'm gonna go check it out really quick. I'll be right back. So give me a second, guys. In the meantime, I'll just put my other game up on idle, just so there's something going on. No, I'll come over real quick. Well, I don't need to do that. Actually, I could quit this, and I'll just run the game here. So we'll just go like this, and choose run. Okay, so we'll keep this running. Oh, it does show up over there. Huh. Can we... Oh, but we can't make it big. Alright. So... Is it going to go back? Come on. There we go. Alright, I'll be right back. Yeah, I was, this bread is good. Okay. So that's another game I'm working on. It's Match 5 Hexagon Rotating Thingy Majiggy. Majority of my time has been spent working on that. And that definitely looks like a more complete game than what this is, obviously. But this is like my passion project, right? So here's our list of our heights. Let's run this again, but okay, so those are the numbers we want. And so now we'll just spawn a label at the positions we're expecting. In this space. So for now, we'll just cheat and we'll say var const label. Do you need to do an equals for preload here? Preload the. But yeah, I get why you want those comments to be like really stand out. That's why I want to make them a snippet so I can just plop them in. Okay. So we've got our label. Is it instance? Do I have to instance a preload? Oh, thanks. I just came back. So text is going to equal where we think we are. So we need to var to string that, add child, but first we have to set the position and space where we need it to be, which is the transform. A little overcooked on the edge there. My kid made some bread she wanted me to try out. Okay, so we have the label. Now we need to set the transform. Which will be height x, the stage, the detail of the stage height, and then height z out of a vector 3. Okay, so do we just set transform? Or is it origin? Let's see what happens. Invalid index transform on base label 3D. Labla. Let's look up label 3D. This part is spatial. Is it origin? There we go. Okay, so we got a bunch of lablas floating in space. Now see, these are wrong. Wrong, do you hear me? So we need to go height +2 or height +1. So we're a little bit higher so we can actually see where we're supposed to be. There we go. So yeah, it's on these edges here that we're not right. Yep, bike ride. I like turtles. Okay, so now we know where our set of data is wrong. So I'm thinking that this is some sort of scaling issue that I've got messed up when I do a loop. I think I see it right now. We got this -1 here. Why? Why? Do I have my what's my little touch screen thing? I gotta do my little clip. Hang on. I gotta open up Touch Portal. It's the Y one. This is the one we want to play, but I have to open this up on my phone, right? Touch Portal. I gotta get these I gotta get this routine down. I have an old iPad that I need to use for this. There we go.
Why? 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 Why?
Why?
I hope you're not too bummed that I'm not working primarily on the hexacore stuff. Why? Once I'm making money doing this, hell yeah. Until then, I gotta think poor. Okay. Nope, that brought us in even more. What am I not understanding about this? Maybe we need to go negative. It's on the bounds. And bring the max bounds up? Why? Oh. Wait a minute. Max bounds why? Let's go back over here. Yeah, it is. So is that going to be a problem? So if I... It's a hint though, right? Why? Okay, let's think about this. So we get our min-max bounds of our board, so to speak. And then we iterate on ourselves. So here's what I know we're in the right. Like if I look here in our Z space, we're in negative to -5. If I bring out here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah, it should always billboard because we're not gonna. Sorry, getting a little distracted. But why is it acting like? find -5 in this. Yeah, we have some trailing -5s. And those are all the ones that show 0 for height. This is all true. But is this hundreds of dollars true? I don't even know how much a Steam Deck is. But I'm not doing it. Can't talk me into it. Can't talk me into it. I'm not buying a Stream Deck. Okay. So then we go for our bounds. So this isn't the problem. Because I was just trying to make a lookup. And originally, when your cell is invalid, why are you storing it? I'm not. Yeah, so I'm going through every single X and Z coordinate, and then I'm going down the heights until I found the first invalid cell, or non-invalid cell. Then I set the heights dictionary with this vec3 that includes the X and the Z coordinate. Because I found I had an array originally with just the X and the Z, and you can't do, for whatever reason, you cannot, because this is something that I'm going to be asking from the outside. So essentially, the original plan was to have just the X and the Z cell values in an array, but whenever I would try to look up a key by an array, it wouldn't work. So then I switched to a vector 2 with the X and the Z, and I'm like, you know what? It's really a vec3 anyway, so we'll make the Y 0 because we're asking for what the height is based off of the X and the Z coordinate. So this is just a dictionary to look it up. Now I could set up a getter. So we do have a getter right here. So it's get height from, and you give it a vec3 position. We ignore the Y because that's not what matters. Then we go, okay, what is the X and the Z that we're looking for, and then we return that from the dictionary if it exists. So the question, though, what we're trying to solve here is why are these bounds not being determined? Well, because I just felt like in my head it made sense. Because, yeah, yesterday I had ultimately set it to a vec2. And I'm like, well, it's really because a vec2 represents an X and a Y value. So I'm like, well, but that's neither here nor there. It's really easy to go back and forth the other way. But so is it a problem with our min and max bounds on the? It's got to be a problem with the min bounds. If we subtract by 1 on both of these, is that going to solve it for our range? No. The problem is, so I'm drawing labels on all of the heights. And the problem is, see how he fell down? So he picked one of the coordinates that's on these axes here. For whatever reason, those blocks think they're on the floor when they ain't. These ones here. Those are in the negatives, I think. me try. That's what I have printed in the label. Right, that's right. So here's what we're gonna do. It's funny because you're just literally you're just my inner monologue. It's just really funny. Don't care about the label. But the label is for my brain to be able to see what's happening here. So I'm going to. So yeah, if so we want the height. So here's the height. String here. I need to make the, let's make the it's just funny how like often we're on the exact same page. It's your character that's falling, so it's something your character sees. Right, the character asks for the height of the next one that it's going to. And what I'm saying is I think my data structures are wrong. So and that's what I'm seeing when I'm printing out these numbers here. So like let's just make it super high here. We'll go 4, right? Do we have values for those even? We don't. So we aren't setting these values to... No? See that one? That happens there too. So... Yeah, see, he went to the corner. So... Why are these values not being set? Well, yeah, I could do that. I'm going to do what I'm doing right now, though. Because when I'm tracking the problem down... Dude... Let me troubleshoot the problem. Like, I get. You're doing all the thinking that I'm doing too, but I'm having to answer you instead of looking into the problem. I'm where I think I need to be on, because I wrote the code, right? So I think I know where to look, and yes, I do get that it's a problem with the character. I get it. I get that it's a problem with what the character is getting. But and because of that, I'm going to the source of where it's getting that information from, and I'm seeing, based on planning the labels out the way that I had, that something ain't right, right? So that's what I'm trying to figure out. So it's just funny because like you're literally every time I look, maybe I should turn off the notification sound or something. But like every time I keep looking, it's like literally what I'm thinking. But I have to answer the question. All right. But still, the problem is these ones on these outer bounds here are not being set. That's the main issue. That's why we now dipped into nothingness. I'm very confused about how maybe we're off. Okay. So let's print the bounds out. Maybe just we're off. Because the number's being spawned. We presume... Yeah, it's right on the tips. So those are the... Okay. So maybe just with the... No, see. Even if there would be some right here. Yeah, there would at least be some numbers right here. And there's not. Okay, so it's definitely for sure not getting those cell heights. So let's in range. Let's print in this loop. Let's print the X and the Z that we're going through. Let's get rid of these print statements here. We don't need this. Okay, so we're definitely going in -5. So here's a question. Does this problem shift over if we were to get rid of these? So let's get rid of that. And then we'll go down one more floor. And okay, now what happens? No. What the hell? Is that because I just missed one to get rid of? Gotta be. Okay, so it is shifting over. So yeah, it's definitely the way that we're building. Now, just to make sure I'm not crazy, when we're looking at a 3D grid, is this the default view? Let me make a new scene here. Okay, so it puts us at... Okay, so I was wrong. These are the negatives. And these are the positives. So it's our positives that are messed up. So do we increase the max bounds by 1? But why? Why would that fix it? That seems to have fixed it. Yeah. That did it. But for sure we're not... It's saying 1. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, so 0, 0, 0. There's those 2s, and there's the 3, and there's the 3. So something about range I'm not getting. Oh! Gosh. Okay. So yeah, range yeah. So if you do a range between 2 and 5, it's going to start counting up to before it reaches 5. The next number before 5, and then it stops. So I needed to increment up. That bumps it out. So that was the problem. Okay. So now we've got some sort of system for getting the character to and just to go over how my character is even doing its movement. Let's get rid of we can get rid of all this label crap. We don't need any of this anymore. Throw all that out and get rid of the label because we'll delete this for now. We're going to have to come up with some debugging tools for sure. Later. But we're going to need to be able to just spit crap out when we need to know it. Okay. So that's fixed. All right. So, so the way that this is working is on the character, just to have it, just the test movement. We spawned it at a random position, then we move. We have this thing called move to, and we get a random position from the stage, a random valid position, and then we say move to that cell, and then we just say that what cell we're moving to and whether or not we're moving, which is just set to true, and then we have this move to next cell. And then what this does is it just goes and says, okay, what direction do we need to head into? And this is all going to change. And then basically, if we're not matched up on the x-axis, then we start heading in that direction. And then once we're lined up there, we start heading in the z. But then as we pick where we're heading, the direction we're heading to, we also need to remember to set our y to the proper height of the block we're moving to. So we get that. And then we set up a tween. And all we do in the tween is we say move to that block direction, to that block, basically. And we set a little pause just so we can see, like, you know, what it's trying to do. And then we just call back on ourselves. Until this is true. Until we're at the cell we were moving to. Then once that happens, we need to set this back to back to empty. So we'll just set U to effector 3. We set ourselves to moving false and so on. So that's that. So in theory, we could like I was saying, we could throw a couple characters on here and try to do the parallel scripting step that we had, which is something we could do. Man, there's just weirdness in the previewer in Godot with orthogonal. For sure. Okay. Let's go over and look at so can I change the values of individual cells in a grid map? Here's what I mean. Let me be more specific. Set clip. That's probably something we're going to care about. So, if we're to look at the game, and we're to set up here we go. So how do we highlight the grid like this? Can we set so you can change the orientation of something. the item of it. But we can't set up. Oh, man. So we can't set. Like, I can't choose this block here and set up. There's no option here to set up. Yeah, it says exactly what library it's from. So if I wanted to have like a highlight effect, I would need like a mirrored library with the materials that I would want to do that effect. Yeah, I'm totally willing for suggestions. I'm trying to think of the things that I'm going to need to be able to start to program the just the game part of the game. I could start just programming the battle system, like the way that the turn orders work, and all that. I could start to flesh out a single cursor tile that you move around as needed. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And it really, it's funny because it appears to be that's possibly what they did even back then. Because if we look at the mesh, the polygons that they're highlighting, they're not highlighting the entire like if you were to do something where this whole side of this rock would have been highlighted. But they're only highlighting like the top level polygons. Like, if this rock was highlighted, it would just be this like oblong, like, kind of off part of it. If they did, which they wouldn't, because you can't stand on that. But so they don't highlight it. But yeah, we could do a grid map with a tile set of a single cursor tile that you move around as needed. For like this, yeah. For the overall blah. We could build it out where I don't know how hard some of this stuff would be. And I don't know that I would initially try and do anything this crazy. But if we were to travel down and find these first vertices that we hit, and then go, okay, those will be the ones that we quote unquote highlight, and we do that by drawing the cursor mesh over that. In these terms, I don't know if I'm using them completely correct. So I'm at a point, I believe, where okay. I think I'm at a point to just pop the game open and start really thinking about certain aspects. I'm going straight from memory on all this, but we do need to build out. We do need to start building out. I'm trying to think of the lowest hanging fruit right now for me. Gosh, I'm just realizing the way they did some of this, that how smart it was. Especially the random encounters. So in this example here, this is an AoE. The red area shows where it could cast, but it's not going to. And the green is where the heal is going to hit. I don't think I should be streaming me learning Blender until I've got enough knowledge of Blender where I cannot fumble around so much. Okay. I think what I should work on is okay. That's good. Well, and the other thing is you know, people when I'm doing Blender, if I title the stream right, somebody who knows Blender is going to pop in and be like, "Yo, bro, you're doing this all wrong." pretty much the Obsidian to my Blender. Okay, so I think what I'll work on is, so this is our basic layout for what I'm calling the tactics, the overview of the tactical combat system, right? The grid map is the thing that we're going to be popping in and out of. So what we could do is, okay, so the resources, the elements that are inside this game folder are going to be the hard logic stuff of the game. That's true always. Then outside of that, this is where I can build a folder called stages. And this is where we're going to have a bunch of grid maps, scenes, that will hold the stage that will then load in onto our tactics scene. Okay, so there are some things that we need on the grid map in this the stage scene. We need to be able to say where the so before the battle starts, you don't know anything about what you're encountering. You just know where your characters start, and so you have the places that you put your characters in starting. And then, and that's where I might be a little different than the way Tactics handles it, because I do feel like you kind of need to know something. But it's meant for, especially for story beats, it's a random encounter, right? So you don't get to plan based on like having all this full knowledge of everything. So that helps recreate that sort of like the random encounter thing. But then in the story stuff, you didn't know you were going to get into a fight anyways. So really, it kind of works. And I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know what this is about. But I don't know what to do with my hands. Let's put them down. Here they come again. Okay, so stages. Let's build our template for our default stage. How do we think we're going to need to do this? Default template. Okay. And this will be, I guess we'll go straight grid map. Okay. Then we have our mesh library that we're going to load in. Okay. Let's add a script to this. And the danger here is we already have something called stage. Donaldi, good to hear. Okay, so I'll use the Obsidian BLK. We're going to go with that. And we will call it stage. I don't know. God, the names of things, dude. That's a bane of all programmers' existence. And I'm going to rip this out. I'll leave this on the bottom as comments so I can grab it when I need it. All right. Oh, I got to remember to read the... I've had to stay on mute for a while, so I'm having to guess at the other half of the conversation. Oh, you mean what I'm saying? Can I enable... I'm pretty sure I have a thing that'll let me enable text-to-speech, like to do closed captioning on my streams. I thought I had that enabled, but I don't know that you'd be able to even see my stream based on whatever it is you're doing. If that's what you mean. If you mean that you have me on mute, so... All right, Obsidian, have a good one. Obsidian's always helping my ass. It's like, well... All right, so... Would it help if there was closed captioning? Because I can get that going. I guess I didn't. I actually think I can enable that right now. Twitch closed caption. There's some service. So it wouldn't be technically, it wouldn't be closed captioning. It would just be like a subtitle. Because I know closed captioning has like a regulatory meaning. I want to say it's, let me check my chat thing. Pixel Chat. Pixel Chat, I think, does it for me. Let me check. Try and make the stream better real quick. Viewer request. Alert, chat overlay. Pixel alert. No, this isn't going to do it. Twitch. Live captions. Is this it? What is live captions? Oh, so I have to go like this. All right, this is a test. Is it working? I don't know if it's using the right mic. Start. Testing 1, 2. Hello. I don't know if my browser has the right microphone. I don't even know how you do that. Oh, it is using the wrong mic. It's this one. All right, testing 1, 2. Hello, test. Test 1, 2. Test. Well, I'll look into it again. Doesn't seem to be working here. And I don't even know how this works. Testing. Okay. Let's get back to what I was doing. All right, so we have our default stage here. Now, I suppose we could just expose some variables. All right, so we could go like export, and it would be an array of vector 3s, and this would be starting positions. And then we could do some sort of setter to make sure that we're not... we have to say var. So now if we reload our default stage, our template, now we have starting positions array. So yeah, we can bump this size up, and then this is what we can determine our spawn points are for the stage. Now, the setter can be a little more intelligent once we do this, but for now, this concept is sound. Okay, so starting positions, is there anything else unique about a stage that we need to be able to set when we're designing it? Because before the battle starts, we have to know where the starting positions would be to be able to build out what the player selects when they're placing the characters before they begin. I don't think so. Not initially, not off the top of my head. I think that's it, really. I think that's it. Okay. So with that done, we're going to say that we need a way to load the grid map in. So we're going to have a folder with a bunch of stages. So we need some sort of naming convention or something. So that we can feed this thing when we load the tactics scene up so that it knows what grid map to put in as an instance. So there's going to be the grid map, and then there's also going to be scripted elements that we're going to need to have. That was that node that I was using as a test. So for that, we can have just a node. And we'll call it script, I guess. Pretty straightforward. And this will be, I mean, is this an instanced? The script is a dynamic resource, so this will have to have we'll need a script on this. So is script the best word for this? Script, scene, script, stage script. Sometimes it's going to be empty. Scripted events, we'll call it. Okay, that's a little bit better. Scripted events, and we're going to attach a script called scripted events, and this is basically just going to be all we need here. Dude, I know. Well, so this is not going to be something I'm going to stop doing either. This is going to be from beginning to end, hopefully. I know what you mean though. Is everything okay? Okay. I need your help. You need to grab the cabinet that is the one I need to install over the refrigerator. Yeah. So if you can bring that upstairs, or at least separate it from the others. Hey, you. So I have to wood glue the what do they call the little thin sheets of fake wood? I always forget. Not fake wood. The thin sheet of the veneer. Is that what it's called? No, that's the finish. Yeah, the thin piece of real wood that goes over the fake wood. The backboard. The laminate. It's the laminate. So, well, but it's made to. So, anyways, I have to clamp that. I got to get some wood glue and clamp that and get it glued onto the side that's going to be flush to the other piece of the cabinetry. Oh, I'm just realizing I actually have to get another piece because the other side of it coming down is going to be exposed as well. I didn't even think about that. Against the fridge? Yeah. So I got to buy another piece. So I'm not going to install that piece is what I'm saying. So anyways, so for the flush stuff, the stuff that's going to be on the other side of the kitchen, I should be able to do all that, but I have to cut the wood. You know, I got to measure and cut. And then also wood glue and clamp and all that. But it's very close to being done. So, okay. So let me see if I can go back in our chat that we've had. Because I know I'd asked you what you were working on. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, the browser-based, you were doing the, that browser-based game, right?
I'll come back for you in 15 minutes, okay?
Yeah. And how do I close this? Gosh, OBS. There we go. Oh, dude. Yeah. And I feel like I'm like all over the place. No, it's I mean, for the longest time I was starting and stopping projects a lot. So I've lost a lot of viewers because I wouldn't stay with any one particular thing. And I do wonder what, you know, because I'm going to be going back and forth between this and that puzzle game. Fortunately, I picked a project that is mostly back-end work, so I only have a few to learn, a few bases. Yeah. Yeah, I tried making this game when I first started learning Godot, and I instantly ran into, oh my god, I don't know what I don't know, which is a bad place to be in when you're trying to do something this big. But I'm getting to the point where I feel like I can at least hit some walls and just like power through. Okay, so yeah, and it was just with simple 3D stuff where I got super scared. I started taking math courses again because I'm like, I don't understand any of this. It's like So the scripted events, we're going to export a variable here, and all it's going to be is a resource. And the resource that we're going to load is this, we'll just call it script inside here, var script. Now, if there is a resource, then all kinds of magical stuff is going to happen. Why are we not a node? What's extends? What happened to our extends on any of this? Extends node. Oh, we can't use that. That's a reserved name. And what were we calling the story editor? So we'll just call it story. Let's call it events. Man, see, the naming of all this is tough. All right, see ya. There's a lot of friction moving from back-end code to JavaScript, TypeScript. Yeah, there is. Yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a wreck. And that's why you end up with these other things like React and all that stuff. And those are all just going to go. They'll come and go. And then everyone will be on to something else. No. We're going to go ahead and block. Bye. All right. And then we'll ban. Boom. I always feel bad doing that. But that was straight up spam, buddy. You're out. I don't got time for that. Robot. You're not even a human. Talking to nobody. Okay. So yeah, so this scripted events thing we're going to throw in a story into it. I guess we could call it story. Scripted story. Story events. Story. Let's just call it story. Okay. So if we load a resource in here, it's going to have, hey, take these characters, put them on the scene, move them around, have them say this stuff, that kind of thing. So for a random encounter, it's not going to matter. But here we are back into what is going to be a template for building a stage. And really all that it's doing is it's just throwing the script into it. So what we could do, another way to handle this, instead of us having to say duplicate a template, is we can just parent a grid map, or make it make a sibling of it, and then then when you go and you're going to add a node, it would show up in here as like a custom grid map thing for a game. We don't even have to call it a grid map, but it would be one basically. So that's another way we could do that. Might be the cleanest way to do it, to teach my friends how to like make the stages, because there are weirdness when you duplicate in Godot. There's some weirdness for sure. So if I was to duplicate this, well, let's see, duplicate template 1. So now if I go to this one and I increase the array size here, and I save that, and then I go to template 1, what are we looking at? Nothing's there. Okay. So maybe that's not a thing. Maybe that was all in my head. It would really suck to build all this stuff out and then have something like that bite me in the butt, though. So, a little paranoid. Little paranoid. I mean, and we don't, like, we know for the most part, I believe there's 5 characters in a battle, typically. So, we could just have a 5 size array ready to go. There's some problems with that, though. Because sometimes you don't have that many. And sometimes they're split up. They're not all in the same spot. Okay. So we're going to have a system that's going to say, start a battle, use this stage. Ah. So I guess what we could do is get a random encounter thing going here. But we kind of need a naming convention. Let's do this. Okay, we're going to create the template in here. Okay. I think that's a good way to do it. So if we put it in a folder called template, but we want to load random encounters, maybe we should do folders. Because we could do like places. So we could have a folder called like area 1. So we could go area 01. And then so we call it area 01 and then we call it random battles. So we'd have our random battles in this folder, and then we'd have another folder called area 01, and these would be our story like scenes. And then if we build out so if I'm going to make a random battle area or a random battle, can I copy and paste? No, it won't let me straight up copy. I have to duplicate. Okay. Random battles. All right. Okay, so here's something I thought of that we need. We do need a name for the place, right? So let's export a string, and it'll be called name. Name is reserved word. Fine. We'll call it stage name. So now if we were to load up our default, we have stage name, but we wanted that to be first. Also, this needs to inherit extends grid map. Export variables. Okay. So, lots of data structures. Lots of data structures. Yeah, man. Web dev. Ugh. Why are you doing your... next time Denali's on here, I need to ask him why he's doing that to himself. Or herself. Why are you doing that? Don't you love yourself? All right. Hang on a second. I gotta text my wife really quick. Something just occurred to me. If I had an apostrophe. No, we don't want to. Don't show my Telegram. I was gonna ask you something I've already forgotten. Because I'm an old man. Don't laugh at that, Odie. You laughing at me being an old man? That's hilarious, Papash. You're an old man. Hi, geezers. Yeah, somebody was selling something. You got the character moving around on the scene. You wanna see? He just picks a random point and walks there. Rotate that. Oh! No! Still got a little I gotta work up. It might be right, actually. I might have to shift it. Okay, so stage name. Okay. I think I'm at a point where I'm going to stop. I've been going for almost 3 hours. Things have been going good. We're getting our I got my head around kind of the next steps, the things I need to be thinking about. Yeah. So I think I'm really to the point though where I need to have the game running and then go over and reference it. So that's I got to get that going. I have to find my HDMI splitter. It's in a box buried behind millions of other boxes. So I got to be able to reach that at some point. So I'm trying to do some cabinets in order to be able to have room to be able to situate that situation. So, all right. Anyways, thanks everyone for hanging out. Much love. Have a good night. And I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.